can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes.
Woo! Hey.
Hey.
So, the writer's strike is over as of this podcast.
Yeah.
The actor strike may be as of this podcast. We don't know yet.
I don't think it's going to be.
It's not going to be anytime soon.
I don't.
But the entertainment landscape is changing. It's changing now.
Drastically.
It's not like previous strikes where people are just demanding their shows back, demanding they make a... People have gone on to find other entertainment. Whether it be YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan because I get to watch what I want to watch, what programs, what I'm interested in. You know.
I think the creator content idea now, there's so many people making so much stuff, and probably like your podcast, it's not about generating revenue. It's more about doing something you enjoy.
Doing something you enjoy. And there are other people who share the same thing.
And
that's why they tune in.
Share that.
Even the people who say, what is this podcast about?
These small, like-minded communities of a very small amount of humans, but the creative outlet is there, and everyone's willing to put their time in. And if someone's willing to put a little money in, then you get focused on that. And there's so much of that now, so much of it.
So much of it so that there's a few things we didn't know exactly how to title this podcast because we don't know what this podcast is about. But you had mentioned watching The Sopranos.
Yep, rewatching Sopranos after 20 years.
After 20 years, haven't done any rewatching. From when it first came out on HBO is when you were watching it last time.
Right, yeah. The last time I watched it was the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I never went back and touched any of it.
So because there ain't nothing new out there, you decided, you know what, let me try some Sopranos.
I felt like I wanted to, I've watched so much other stuff on Max. I wanted to watch it, and rewatching it again. And part of what we were going to talk about is a different point of view. One thing, I'm drastically a different age, but seeing different parts of the show that I didn't really pick up on, and how you can enjoy like a show that's obviously a critically acclaimed and well-made show, and incredible acting, and all the good things you can say about it that show possesses. But you can also, at least for me, watch it and I'm getting like a total different vibe out of it than I did when I watched it the first time. So it's very interesting to see that, because so much other stuff you watch and it gives you that automatic good feeling, like you hear a song or something and you're like, oh, I know exactly where I was. And we talk about our love of Star Wars and how it's, emotionally crippled us. So I'm rewatching something like this, and I don't feel any of that. It's a total different vibe, so it's interesting.
Yeah. No, I've done the same thing before. I've watched, I wanted to watch some of these classic TV shows. I watched I Love Lucy back when I was studying for the role of Ricky Ricardo, and I think I watched the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then I did the show. Well, then afterwards I asked Megan, I said, look, I kind of want to watch the rest of it. Do you want to watch it with me? She's like, yeah. We watched it. Enjoyable. I know why that movie, I know why that TV show was #1 for so long. Entertaining, still holds up as an old comedy. And then during the pandemic, I didn't know what to watch, and I said, well, let's look at some of these other classics. Andy Griffith. I remember my cousins being nuts about Andy Griffith. Dick Van Dyke Show.
You were getting old shows.
Oh, yeah, Waltons. I used to watch the Waltons. The Waltons were pretty good. I enjoyed going through the Waltons, and that was like 10 seasons of, whew. But you know what, though? I have enjoyed... I'm doing the Nickelodeon at Night stuff, the Nick at Night stuff right now. But I know what you mean, though, because older shows... Well, I'm more privy to watch an older show that's been completed than I am to try anything new now. Because it seems like... I'm not saying they can't make anything good anymore, but a lot of this content... There's so much noise out there as new content goes. And I know the stuff that's supposed to be good... Like Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, this is garbage. It's teetotal garbage. Didn't even finish the first season, not watching the second season. I didn't even bother with Rings of Power because it just looked like a disaster from the beginning. And then you got all the, just the new Marvel shows coming in, and there's just garbage. It's just a lot of garbage now.
Well, I'm not going to get into the garbage side of it as much as you are. I don't have the passion for it.
But that's why you go back and you watch something like The Sopranos or other older classics, because you know what you're getting.
But see, that's the trick of it. Watching this show in particular, And once I run this, I'm gonna try to delve into other stuff. And years ago, I rewatched Dallas again with my.
Did you?
Yeah, with my ex-wife. We went through all of that, and that was quite interesting because I remember that so much as a little kid, and you watch that as an adult, and you pick up on so much of other stuff.
How did that hold up?
I thought it held up well.
Good.
I thought. Obviously, the first 4 seasons are the best. And it started reaching, obviously, with the dream sequence and all of that stuff.
After a while, we run the course of ideas.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you, how long do you stay at the party before you leave?
Check out?
Yeah.
And back then, the shows were still number 1 or in the top ratings, so they got a new season.
Yeah,
that's what you did. If people are still watching,
you run it until the legs fall off.
and that's what they would do. They kept running it until the ratings weren't there. Usually, most of the time. I watched Magnum PI. That was another show I did because I had seen episodes back and forth with Mom and everything.
Yeah.
Watched it again. Some really good episodes. Some really fun things that I really enjoyed. So yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean by that. Any other? I'm intrigued.
Well, I mean, those are the first 2 that kind of come to mind. I think the reason being is rewatching them, and obviously the drastic change of age, but the characterization on those 2 shows in particular, and the way the actors were, and 2 really legendary guys were 2 different characters with, Tony Soprano and J.R. Ewing.
Yeah.
That are like upper echelon of that. So it's obviously you've got top talent, which makes it so much better.
And that's what brings in the show, because you got the lead has to be interesting, has to be engaging. Doesn't have to be a great guy. Doesn't have to be the super everything knows it. Doesn't have to be all that.
Right. No,
definitely these are flawed characters, but what makes it interesting is their flaws and how they develop and how they make decisions.
Emotional depth, the charm of a scoundrel.
Of course.
And but not just that, but the supporting cast of both of those shows. It's strong, just strong acting. You watch that, and when you turn it off, you can kind of go, man, I almost feel like these are real people. I know it seems odd, but
they can be relatable. You understand.
You can watch it, and it's such a good escape. You're not watching it thinking, these people are being somebody else. You watch that and you go, oh, well, these people are probably really married. This feels like a real relationship. So to me, that's a lot of it. But the thing with Sopranos, the takeaway I have is, over the past 10 years, there's been such I feel like it's new, this real appreciation of mental health awareness and people really understanding how that affects things in generations, and watching that. And I never really took into account how much of that's what the show was about.
The psychiatrist scenes and stuff like that.
Correct.
Which was the crux of the show, really.
Right, but when I watched it when I was younger, I don't know what the best term was, but you're kind of just like, just the characters you just get so wrapped up in rather than that mental health side of it.
You were following the other plot lines.
Correct.
Is what you were doing.
Right.
And not realizing that the centric plot line is the one that ties the show together.
Correct.
No, I get that completely.
Yeah.
In fact, I probably did watch the show the same way you did. I was more interested in how so-and-so was going to get out of this jam.
Correct.
Because he was supposed to pick up the money from Tony, but the money got stolen. Now he's got to fight it. I was more interested in that story than Tony dealing and processing his life, his family, his job,
his
everything.
Trauma of his all
his
of
mom,
this,
issues with his mom and everything.
Yeah, and then you rewatch that, and his mom is so incredible, the way she is, because my mom has passed years ago, but some of the stuff she says, and not to say she's Tony Soprano's mom, but man, there's certain parts of anybody that has like mother trauma. You watch that and you go, God, I can really relate to this. I thought I could relate to it years ago, but I really relate to it now. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. No.
So, and I'm not saying that nothing new holds up, but I just think it's interesting to watch a show that was really critically acclaimed and understand, there is even more depth to it, because like I've grown as like a consumer of of media, for lack of a better term.
Well, let me clarify that. I'm not saying that nothing new can be good.
Right.
I'm just saying I'm more interested in going back and revisiting shows than I am giving this show a shot. Because, I mean, to be fair, a lot of people tell me that, oh, this is a great show. You should watch this. Oh, but it gets bad after. The Witcher. Oh, it's great. Oh, it get bad. Westworld. Oh, yeah, I remember when Westworld came out. You got to watch it. And then 2-3 seasons later, do I have to watch it? It kind of fell off. Yeah, and that's usually, they drop off because they don't know where they're going. They don't know what they're doing. At least shows like Dallas, they had strong lead characters they could build the story around without having to worry about an overarching...
and some people you can give chicken salad, you can give them chicken poo-poo and turn it into chicken salad. And,
True.
you know, some of you, and it takes a lot to do that, and certain people can. And some of the Dallas plot lines are pretty silly, but the acting and the characters are so strong. You can tell why it was such a huge hit globally, because it just drew you in.
Yeah.
And I think that there is some issues to that, and not to reference your other podcast, but talking about just too many good looking people on the screen at once, you kind of go, what am I watching?
Takes you out of it.
And it's like our talk about pro wrestling. When everyone kind of looks the same, it takes some of the intrigue out.
Yeah, the reality of it.
Yeah, it's like this is not possible because no one could be this good looking everywhere.
Yeah. The ugly girl is just the hot girl with glasses.
Correct. Yeah, that's the gimmick. And
That's all we got. I've also seen a trend. We're talking about entertainment here. Is the so far gone sequel, the sequel that comes out super delayed, Expendables 9 years after the last one. You know, the fire has gone cold on that whole franchise.
Right.
Same thing. I watched The Nun 2. The original one came out, I believe, 6 years ago. 6 years. We can get around to making a movie and bring it out in 2. Okay.
Well, and what I thought of that is, I think there are studios have grown into a really bad habit of sitting on media for too long, and then when they release it finally, it comes off so like, what are you doing here? This should have already been made. And I think that's another problem. Like, they make so much, they don't really have a plan of how to distribute it, and it turns into expired goods.
Everything's, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, people love these apples. Well, let's hold on to it, see what we can do with it. Then they're spoiled by the time they come out. Because, I mean, the iron was hot when Expendables 3 came out. Do another one then. You know, if it's still going. I know 3 didn't make the same money as 1 and 2, but if you want to do a 4th one, you keep going off the hit. Well, it's still relevant in people's heads.
Right.
Not when it's a remember then. Top Gun was a remember when.
Well,
don't just look at Top Gun and go, "Oh, we need to revive all these other franchises."
I think that is just that is definitely the anomaly of that.
Oh, absolutely.
But and a lot of that is you took a major talented person who really wanted to tie that loose end up, and that makes a big difference.
No, it does.
That's not to say Stallone is not a talented person and does not take being Sylvester Stallone. I can't imagine anybody taking anything more serious than he does to look the way he does at his age.
And he's a genius because Expendables is his baby, which made tons. That was a franchise that made tons of money. Rocky made tons. He's like underneath George Lucas. He's really underrated because then Rambo.
Right.
He's created 3 huge franchises that everyone knows and everyone can relate. Everyone knows who Rocky is. Everyone knows who Rambo is.
Right.
You know?
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think Stallone is
he's a pretty hard genius and everything, making all these. But then, you know, you get, I don't know, just that long awaited. Just it's too long. It's too long. I was thinking that watching The Nun too. I was like, golly, I'm glad they're showing clips of the first one. I wasn't going to go back and watch it.
You would think that there's something in a contract that says this has to be released by a certain date. Well, why would they even release it now?
We're in the now. We're in the world of now. We get entertainment right now. Attention spans are incredibly short now. Remember when movies used to last in theaters for most of the year?
Well, but I think that what we're talking about too, the piggyback to that of the Expendables is the whole Batgirl debacle and how they can just say, we'll take the insurance hit without releasing it. Obviously, they had exhausted every legal reason they had to release Expendables, because why else would you do it? There's no financial gain. You know you're in the
make
red.
it in the first half? I mean, it's just so past its prime.
They held on to it. They just held that card for too long.
It's true.
I'm
it's
sure
true.
there are plenty more movies like that.
I don't get it. I don't get it. And Top Gun 2, I believe, is
the whole
big...
DC franchise is that way. Everything is being held on too long.
Oh my gosh!
So,
yeah,
we're going to see the bones of that being picked apart in a few more months.
Yeah, The Flash. Haven't seen him since Justice League, which was what, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah,
I mean,
but I'm just saying,
forever.
It's hard to know when to, I guess, let things go.
You either let go or you just release it. Strike while the iron's hot.
Maybe
strike while the
way I dress. Maybe hard to let things go, but
I mean, that's obviously the case. But I'm just looking at all this stuff, going, what took so long? Why does it take so long? Dune, the second part. I know it got delayed because of the actor strike and they want to stretch things out. But dude, you came out 3 years, 2 years? I mean, you're losing your audience.
Yeah,
because other things have come out since then.
I think that's part of it too. Like, there's so much of it out there. How do you do this anymore?
Well, back in the day, if a movie got hot, they'd probably rush it, but they try to get that sequel out as fast as they could. We got to get this, pump this sequel out. Yeah. And now they're going, go, 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 because you got to get it out, because you got to strike while that iron's hot. And that urgency is now gone, and it's a world of indecisiveness. A bunch of executives don't know what they want to do. They want to do it. How long has Marvel or Disney owned the rights to X-Men? And nothing. They're going to be, after the actor strike's over, they're going to be taking ideas down. What that means for another 4 years?
Yeah, I agree.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You've had it for so many years and you haven't done a thing with it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's odd that you hear in like business or any other field where it's like green, yellow, red, like as far as your priorities, how that for Marvel has not been green since the day they officially acquired it.
Goodness gracious. They're just, key problem there. But, and of course, I do believe, I'm not saying you should just rush to get it out, but have a plan.
No, I don't think
have
you
a
should.
game
I
plan.
definitely don't think you should rush things, but I'm saying that you have to have a priority chart.
Oh, absolutely.
And that obviously that franchise, and then obviously Expendables is in your red.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, just come up with a plan and stick to it. And if it's going to make it, then put a marker on and say, okay, let's see what you got.
Doesn't that go back to leadership, what we talked about in the previous podcast?
It does. It does
all
boil
these
down on
selling itself off, and then someone absorbs it, and then they do this. Well, then whoever they thought was running it previously, they're shit canned. They're out of here. So someone else inherits it, and then they want to twist it, and it's just this vicious cycle. And that's what we're seeing. Is the product is so warped when it's finally delivered, and you go, "Yeah, this is terrible."
Yeah, it's terrible. I don't care about. I mean, imagine if the eighth Harry Potter book came out now, everyone would be nuts over it. But like, she didn't complete it's like George R.R. Martin, just sitting on whatever Game of Thrones book is out right now, or I don't know what's the actual Fire and Ice, whatever it is. He's been sitting on the potential sequel for well over a decade now. I mean, it's a book, so I'm sure people will get it and everything, but I can't imagine just harping on, it
won't ever be as big as it was.
Yeah, it won't ever be as big.
You can't wait.
Your moment has gone. It's not like...
I think everybody thought that about Top Gun. I don't think anybody thought it was...
I never thought
that they had overweighted.
Never.
But that just shows it can happen.
Know.
But, man, it's not the law of averages.
But I'll be honest, Top Gun was solid. Solid acting, a solid story.
Yeah, but the point is, if you put 20 other ideas like that, they would
miss the mark.
Right.
But that's because they don't understand. So many people write for these long-awaited sequels. They have no idea what they're doing. Like, I was never a Beetlejuice fan. I don't care either way about Beetlejuice. My wife's a big Beetlejuice fan. So Beetlejuice 2, right? That's going to come out 20 years, 30 years later. Okay? Who asked for that? I don't know.
Well, I think that it's the nostalgia thing, and I think Michael Keaton is like a...
And you got Tim Burton back, so I mean, you know. But to what point? Is that one going to be, hopefully, because it's got Keaton and Burton, you think, they can recreate the magic. But, Jurassic World, goodness gracious. Those movies just fell flat from the very beginning.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes they like we talked about, it's like Dallas. They ran it to
the ground, yeah. But the mentality back then, and maybe still today for TV shows, is you keep making season after season until either you can't because the actors, they're renegotiating scripts too high, which would happen to Bing Bang, or maybe they decide to bow out and just part ways like Friends, Seinfeld, stuff like that while they're on top.
Right.
But the mentality has always been you keep pumping out one season after the next as long as it's in the ratings. Like I never watched the show Supernatural. 20 seasons?
Yeah, that
or something like that. But it was always hitting ratings for CW, and as long as the actors they supposedly weren't asking
one of those everybody's good-looking shows.
Yeah, but they weren't asking for raise anymore because they knew if they asked for any more raises, that'd be it.
Right.
So they're making top dollar. They're happy to be employed. I my hat's off to them. Usually people don't want to be stuck in a character.
Yeah, if they know their audience, go for it.
But they know this is what they'll be known for forever. They'll probably not be known for anything else, but they're happy with it. They enjoy this. They enjoy the crew they're working with, and I get it. But into the ground. Pandemic finally put an end to that.
Well, I think that if you look at like a top actor who's got their peers, and if the show runs 5 years, think about everyone else's career that has peaks and valleys. So I'm sure those guys looked at that and they were like, probably a lot of their friends came and went with vicious falls from where they thought they would be, and they're like, let's ride that money train out.
And I don't blame them for that either.
Yeah.
And as long as you create more stories, more interesting tie-ins and everything, it's fine too. But after a while, I hate to say it, but you got to cut ways. Some of my favorite shows, I wish they would have gone on longer, but would that necessarily have been good? Who knows? I'm a big Highlander fan. I admit the show's a little, there's some eek moments in the first season, meaning they're kind of boring, kind of drag. They were trying to find their footing. And then the rest of the show's pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of like the first half of a football game. You'll know who the better team is on the second half.
That's exactly right, because people usually get their footing right in the second season because they get into they know what's going on. The character development starts really evolving there. But then you look at the last season of that, and it's just really pathetic. Now, of course, Duncan MacLeod, Adrian Paul hurt himself, and so he couldn't do much, but still it wasn't the best of seasons, and maybe they should have stopped at 5, which wasn't the perfect season either, but had some good stuff in it. And they definitely should have stopped by doing that awful spinoff. But the thing is, though, you want that. Me wants to see more of that, but at a while you have to stop. You have to cut it off. If you know that you're creatively bankrupt, and that's the thing. We were talking about this before the podcast started, but Star Wars, the TV shows, they're not getting better, according to you and Benjamin. They're not. It's not like they're learning from their past mistakes. Because you haven't seen it yet. Benjamin had. Benjamin made a comment on it on one of our podcasts that it's awful. It's beyond awful. It's mind-bogglingly dumb.
Right.
It's like baby food is what they're feeding you now. It's like, how did they regress so far back?
Yeah, I think that's and I think legacy brands, they're going to kill them. Because they're determined to
drive it into the ground till it can't. You squeeze every ounce of money that you can from it.
They'll take the law of diminishing returns and keep going rather than saying, "Hey, let's let it breathe."
Yeah, can't let it breathe. Got to keep stomping.
We got to
do ground.
something. We got to try something, and they're doing a really good job of slowly just
suffocating the fandom.
Yeah, that's exactly the term I was going to use.
The air is being let out of the balloon just over and over and over again.
It's a sad fall.
Yeah. It used to be this big, exciting thing. Then you kept hoping it would get better. It's not so you're trying to pick out. Well, that was good. And this scene was good.
That's part of the arc of all this stuff where we talk about how there's these great rises and then they crash and what's left. And then there are certain shows that find a way to kind of end the way they feel is best, but you can't satisfy an
entire
your
fandom
paying
with
audience.
One ending. Yeah.
Kind of how Sopranos ended, and a lot of other shows where you kind of felt like,
You know what? I wasn't upset by how Sopranos ended. I actually liked the ending.
Well, and I'm not saying the ending was bad.
What'd you think about it?
I thought it was not what I expected.
Okay. But I thought that was what the show was about. Because the show you wanted the redemption of Tony, and every time you thought he did a good thing, he went right and bad again.
No, yeah,
and that was the reality of it. So I felt like
it's like what we talked about the Flash movie, where we were very exhausted from the darkness of the Batman
DC,
character,
yes. Superman too,
and for him to say, "We cleaned up Gotham. I retired." You're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was it worked. How did that happen?"
I thought we had to break down our characters in these miserable portions. I swear to you, when I saw the trailer, I went, "Here's the story. Michael Keaton's Batman has given up on life. The world is just a terrible place. But the Flash is going to show him there is good in this world, and get him to go back to being Batman."
But
I swear
just
that
think
was the problem.
and talking about Sopranos, I think that was it. Like you were expecting something else, and you thought, but they ended it the way they felt was best. Mm-hmm. And
have you ever seen Rescue Me? Dennis Leary's fireman one?
Mm-mm.
That's a good one too. He's another kind of like,
I remember that being on now. Yeah.
Tony Soprano character. He's a struggling alcoholic,
right?
Who's recovering and then falls and then trying to get his life back together, and then just he screws it up,
right?
And you're like, come on. But it had that. It was such a weird thing because it's a drama and a comedy and a supernatural thriller too, because he can see dead people. And so all this stuff, you think this would not make it, but it's so intriguing. And what they did with it for as many years as they did, and I think it ended just right. I can't remember how many seasons it went quite a few, but it was good. It's good the whole way through. Some of those old school FX shows I really like The Shield and
right.
Justified. I did see the new Justified series, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. There's one thing I thought was just bogus. But other than that, I was like, wow, Waylon, I can't remember his name now, Waylon Riggs, whatever the guy he plays, character he plays, he got right back into character. He could do it, a little bit older, but still fun. The show overall was fun. I thought it ended perfectly.
I think that kind of character, and gosh, I don't know where we're going with all that, but like especially Western type characters, that's like certain guys like Sam Elliott, that's they can play a cowboy the rest of their life.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he can play that kind of
he can nail that.
Rebellious lawman. It's just him.
Yeah.
He kind of did that in the the Mandalorian when he was on that.
Oh yeah. Because he was in that one too.
Yeah.
He's just a good actor.
Yeah, but that old gunslinger.
Yeah. He has a look. He can get the character down.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's got the right.
That's something he's familiar with. And I'm not gonna tell people.
And he was in Deadwood too. So.
See, I never watched Deadwood, but
okay.
But not to spoil Justified, but I thought it ended perfectly because it set itself up to where if they want to do another season, they could. But if they want to end it the way they did, I loved it. I loved it either way. And obviously the writers got together with him, want to make sure they got the character right, they got the story right.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was good. Like I said, one part I was like, that's totally unbelievable. That would never happen. This is a joke. But the rest of it was, pretty solid, straightforward.
Is that our homework is to watch that?
No, our homework won't be to watch. Okay. Did you like Justified back in the day? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I didn't get through all of it.
Okay. The second season is the best. That's really where it got the best. Mama being the best. That was the whole storyline was so interesting. But no, I don't know if you watched Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the new season?
I tried it, but it
wasn't for you.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I was in the right mindset for.
I enjoyed it. I love Kurgan, and I love that guy's getting a lot of work now. Like he was in John Wick 4. He's been the character in a lot of TV shows now. And he's just getting more work now. And I think people are realizing, wow, this guy's really good. He's got a lot of depth.
Yeah.
To him. And, I don't, if I saw him between Kurgan and the past 20 years, I've forgotten But I remember starting to see him pop up here and there and going, oh, it's good to see him. And now he's kind of back in the limelight as this one guy or this one guy, and he's just good. Yeah. He's a believable character. So anyway, though, I just getting off on a tangent, though. I thought Dexter was done well. My wife hated the ending, but I thought it was really good. But there's ways to do things right, and that delayed, that season comes out, you better have a good idea. You better know what you're going to do. If you don't have your game plan together. But if you're just throwing up something that, no, who's asking for it anymore? People kept asking for Dexter.
Right.
Was anyone asking for Expendables 4? Maybe after Expendables 3 they were. And I'm not I want to see Expendables 4 too. I don't want to say I'm overly critical, but
right.
What are we asking for? And like you, I'd probably rather be watching an older show.
Yeah. How much of your audience has aged out?
Exactly. And now we got to where we can watch anything at any time. You used to have the DVD. The only way you could watch Sopranos 10, 20 years was if you had the DVDs. Right. And now basically anything is streaming. You just got to buy that streaming service.
But I think the demos, they talk about back in the day it was like 18 to 34, and now you'll hear like a demo is 18 to 49. But I'm 46. I'm not watching the same stuff people are 22 are watching.
I'm not either.
I just feel like the demo, how they've stretched that, they're playing it a certain way. It's like that's not very realistic.
Because less people are watching.
Correct.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's creative math.
So after Sopranos, what would you watch next?
I don't know. I'm probably going to get into your vault of what you feel like I should watch. I'm to take some of your homework.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You know what, though? I'll let the listeners also decide, too.
If they made it this far.
If they made it this far. So first off, folks, tell Wes what TV show you think he should rewatch. And then someone, please tell us, what is this podcast about?
Help me.
We'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.